and versatile notebook. Alright, a few more packages before we get onto the phones. This one does look suspiciously like a phone, but it is labelled as not one, so we'll see. Turns out this is something just as exciting. This is a $50 4K action camera. Now this is by the company Elephone, who are recently just starting to take themselves seriously in the smartphone market, so I'm pretty excited to test this one out. And in the second box it literally has every accessory under the sky. This is really impressive and surprising for $50. The camera itself comes in a waterproof enclosure. I'll be very excited to take this for a spin. The next one is pretty fun if you've been following the channel for a long time, and by long I mean a really long time. You'll know I'm a pretty big advocate of KZ. This is a company that produced the ATE earphones, which were basically the best earphones for about $15 you could buy. And right here we have the KZ ZS6, a pair of much higher end earphones which have removable, replaceable cables and a custom-built driver, not to mention the pretty striking visual design. So I spent about 25 minutes test driving the earphones, and safe to say I was every bit as impressed as I expected I was going to be. They are powerful, rich, bassy and detailed, more so than you'd expect given how much they are. Just a couple more packages before we get onto the phones, and here we have what appears to be some sort of bulb, perhaps a smart bulb like a Philips Hue replacement, but it turns out this is a humidifier. It comes with decorative stones which are meant to just place inside of it to stop it being perhaps a smart bulb like a Philips Hue replacement, but it turns out this is a humidifier. It comes with decorative stones which are meant to just place inside of it to stop it tipping over, and the setup is pretty simple. You just put the stones in, you pour some water in, and you plug it into either a battery bank or a mains. Tap a button and you're good to go. It's also got LEDs built inside of it, so you can cycle the lights on the inside between white or 7 different colours. I've never heard of this company. It's called Gubaev from what I can read, and I've got no idea what's inside. I've been told it's not a phone. It's a bit too small to be anyway, so lifting that foam off reveals a watch. And this is actually a very surprising watch in terms of what it can do. It's got glow-in-the-dark hands, stainless steel construction, even a 30-meter water resistance. After taking off all the surrounding plastic, which took a good 10 minutes, I actually think the watch looks really good. I think the colour scheme works together. Black and gold is a classic combination for a reason. Now, let's get started on these smartphones. And first up we have a mysterious-looking grey package, which, I gotta say, even after opening up, doesn't become much clearer. We've got this sort of glossy plastic material on the outside, which is quite an unusual finish for a smartphone box. And taking that off, we've got a matte white interior. The smartphone has a completely black, opaque screen protector on it, which is quite unusual. And underneath, we have a finish for a smartphone box. And taking that off, we've got a matte white interior. The smartphone has a completely black, opaque screen protector on it, which is quite unusual. And underneath, we have these full-colour, what appears to be full Chinese manuals, one of which contains the SIM ejector tool. A couple more sheets of paper, and below that we've got a little package which contains the USB Type-C charging cable, and another which contains an 18-watt fast charger which also supports Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3.0. Okay, this phone definitely lives up to the aim of the video. This is a very strange device through and through, but in most cases in a good way. This is running Android, but it's so customized that it almost doesn't feel like it. Smartsun has designed their own custom OS, and it is gorgeous. In terms of the animations, everything is fluid, everything has a certain bounce to it. But it's also purposeful. It's not only visually different from Android, but it's functionally too. And it's got a lot of little quirks in it, which can actually make your day-to-day life quite a bit easier. Even physically speaking, this device is a complete departure from everything we're used to. It has got the blocky sides of a Sony phone, but then the curved corners of something completely different. You've got a chrome rim running all the way around the sides of the phone, which gives your fingers a constant bit of texture to hold on to. And some pretty out-the-box rounded buttons, which I think a bit of texture. You've got a crocky sides of a Sony phone, but then the curved corners of something completely different. You've got a chrome rim running all the way around the sides of the phone, which gives your fingers a constant bit of texture to hold on to. And some pretty out-the-box rounded buttons, which I think practicality-wise I'm a little bit less of a fan of. Smartphone package number 2 feels a little bit heavier duty, and sure enough inside we have a military protection case alongside the phone, which is the Ulefone Armor 2. I really like the packaging on that. That is something completely different to what you're probably used to. This protection pouch is 100% overkill for the purposes of protecting and carrying a phone, but how many times do you get something like that for free when you buy a device? The box feels pretty heavy duty, so it's no surprise here that the phone is about twice as heavy than ones we're used to. We'll get back to that in just a minute. And the box has a little bit of a OnePlus feel with the way the cable is presented, and also a micro USB to USB Type-C adapter, and surprisingly an 18-watt fast charger. It's also got a screwdriver, which I think we've never seen on a phone before. We'll find out why soon enough. Taking the plastic sleeve off, and you quickly realise this is a different beast altogether. The Ulefone Armor 2 is what we have here, and it looks unlike any phone I think I've ever seen before. We've got a screen protector which details all the things it is resistant to. This is one rugged, durable phone, which makes the inclusion of that pouch almost ironic. So it turns out the screwdriver is to lock and unlock the SIM card compartment. This phone doesn't take waterproofing lightly. It's got a waterproof earpiece, waterproof Type-C port, waterproof speaker, camera, as well as buttons. But even aside from its durability, the Armor 2 is a surprisingly complete package. It's got a 4,700 mAh battery, fingerprint scanner, sick package. It's got a 4,700 mAh battery, fingerprint scanner, 6 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage. It's got a 16 megapixel camera and even an octa-core Helio P25. Onto the next phone, and this is in a smaller package but feels disconcertingly heavy given its size. Turns out this is the Mix 2, but not by Xiaomi. Instead, by Oukitel. As you might be aware, there are a lot of manufacturers who have tried to have a stab at Xiaomi's Mix formula. The idea being a maximum sized display, ideally 6 inches, in a body of a minimum sized phone. So far, the Oukitel Mix 2 looks like one of the better attempts. It's got a glass back, it's got an included silicone case, and some decent specifications all the way around. It's got a 4,000 plus mAh battery, but to my surprise, what took center stage here was the display. It's actually using in-cell display technology and looks almost as good as what I would say the OnePlus 5T's AMOLED panel looks like. It has got a Full HD Plus resolution and an 18:9 stretched aspect ratio. And a bit like the Armor 2, it's not a slouch in other departments. It's got an octa-core Helio P25, 6 gigs of RAM, and 64 gigs of ROM. But I would say if you decide not to use the case, the back of the phone does attract an annoying amount of fingerprints, but bear in mind this is made almost entirely out of glass, which gives it the same super premium feel of a phone like the Galaxy S9 Plus. Next up, we've got a phone that is apparently from ZTE, which is exciting. This is a much larger corporation capable of investing more in the production of its phones. And it's in the Nubia range. I quite like the design aesthetic here. It's very minimalist. It's got a boxy white exterior, but then with soft gold highlights all the way around. The company has also subtly introduced touches of red into the packaging. That's a really nice color combo. And underneath the phone, you've got a SIM ejector tool, a couple of manuals, and then the charging cable and charger. And it turns out this cable is actually a micro USB cable, and the charger is a pretty slow 7.5 watt device. But that's totally fine, because as it turns out, this is the M2 Lite, one of ZTE's more budget-oriented phones, which you wouldn't really have guessed by looking at it. Most budget phones, they tend to be a little bit tasteless. They tend to come with blander designs. This one has a lot of character. The red, gold, and black together make this one of the most visually striking phones I think I've seen in quite a long time. Spec-wise, it's not the most capable, but it's also barely over $100, and the focus here is on the selfie camera, which has got a 16 megapixel resolution, which is actually higher than the rear camera, which is 13. Following on from this, we've got the Verni X, which is the company's flagship phone. Underneath the device, we've got a pretty packed out box here. As well as the manuals, we've got a USB Type-C to headphone jack adapter. We've also got a screen protector, albeit only plastic, but also a case, and whilst this is still a silicone one, it's nice to see that it's got a little bit of character. To round the package off, there's a USB Type-C cable and an 18-watt fast charger. And to give you some perspective, the Galaxy S9 Plus charges with 15 watts. The screen of the phone is a 6-inch Full HD Plus panel, but unlike with the Oukitel Mix 2, I wouldn't say this is the highlight. This isn't the center of attention here. What we're really here for is the 6,200 mAh battery, which can be fully charged in about 150 minutes. So guys, that is the giant unboxing. I really hope you enjoyed the video, because this thing took me about 3 normal videos worth of time to film and edit. And if you did enjoy it and you stuck around till the end, it would mean so much to me if you could smash that subscribe button. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.
Эй, все нормально, все здорово, все здорово. Народ.
Сотрудники для малого бизнеса на ХХРУ. Это ваш магазин одежды с модными в этом сезоне моделями и с яркими принтами. Но он закрыт, потому что вы все еще ищете продавца,
Wow, very special Samsung unboxing today. I've even dressed for the occasion. And a couple of other cool things too. For example, the Galaxy Tab S6. This is Samsung's answer to Apple's top...
Тоже надо. Ну ладно, да. Фона, таблетка, планшета.
Today we've got a pretty interesting experiment to run. I've recently come across something which I think could be pretty revolutionary. I haven't seen anyone talk about this, and some of the claims on just how much battery it can save were really rather impressive. So as you can probably tell, what we're talking about here is making the display monochrome, which is different to every other battery saving technique. It doesn't involve lowering resolution, it doesn't involve lowering the brightness. This is completely different. You might also be aware that there's actually a grayscale feature built straight into the settings of the iPhone X. And some people have claimed this works just as advertised. And these dark mode features, as they're commonly referred to, are quite a well-established way of saving battery on AMOLED displays, showing as much black and as much grey as possible and as little colour. Unfortunately, this process on Android devices requires unlocking the bootloader, rooting the phone, and installing third-party applications. Luckily for you guys though, I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then we're going to run a side-by-side comparison. One phone running the monochrome mode, the other one not doing it, and we're going to see if it's really worth doing. So we've got ourselves two identical phones here, so you can differentiate. One of them is the Sandstone White OnePlus 5T, and the other one is a brand new, fresh out of the box, Midnight Black OnePlus 5T. Same spec, same battery, same everything. Both of these phones have had no more than 2 full battery charging cycles, so no chance for the battery to deteriorate. Alright, so the rooting process itself was actually a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be. It's not completely simple, but a lot of the guides online will pretty much take you through it individual step by step. And the process takes about an hour to an hour and a half. You then boot the phone back up, install the monochrome application on the Play Store, I'll leave a link down below, and we're pretty much good to go. Alright, here's where it gets pretty clever. The way standard grayscale applications work is they simply apply a color filter on top of your current colored display. So in effect they are constantly running in the background and not technically speaking saving you any battery at all. Monochrome is a little bit different. It works on the GPU level to mean that your phone is only processing colors in grayscale. It's not a case that your phone is processing every color and then just a grayscale filter is being applied on top. However, to make sure it is actually saving your battery, the company have configured monochrome so that it only activates when your phone hits the low power mode. If you were allowed to configure at what percentage you wanted monochrome to activate, it would mean the application would constantly have to run in the background to monitor when the phone hits this stage. Alright, so as promised, we've got a side-by-side comparison now. So we've got two identical OnePlus 5T phones. The one on the left is the Midnight Black version, unrooted, no monochrome application installed. The one on the right is the Sandstone White version of the phone, which does have it. We started both phones off at 50%, and as you can see they're both still in full colour. The monochrome hasn't kicked in yet, and will probably activate at either 30%, 20% or 15%, depending on at what percentage OnePlus counts the phone to be on low battery. And so the idea here, what we're really trying to achieve, is to run identical applications on both phones in order to try and drain their batteries equally. And we would expect, until the point where monochrome turns on, both phones will drain at exactly the same rate. And upon reaching this point, we may start to see a divergence, depending on, well, whether or not monochrome works. So we've now launched one of those extreme battery waster apps, which, yes, is not representative of day-to-day activity on the phone, but until we hit the point where monochrome turns on, it doesn't really matter, we're just trying to get the batteries down. Right now, at least, the phones are almost neck and neck, but not quite. The Sandstone 5T, the one which is rooted, the one which has monochrome installed, is actually lagging a little bit behind in terms of battery. It's about 0.5% behind the Midnight Black one. But that level of slight variance is to be expected. Even when a company is making one particular smartphone again and again, there will be slight differences in actual battery capacity. Okay, so monochrome is now turned on, so we're going to try and do realistic things, which people might do on a day-to-day basis, like the Play Store, like internet browsing, like watching YouTube videos, and we're going to see how the battery is affected. And so far so good. After barely 5 minutes, the monochrome seems to have pulled ahead slightly, but the difference is present, and of course this has just reversed the trend that we saw previously. So
Nie, to też уже не то. Слишком артистично, że to wyjdzie.
Something's happened. We're going to try opening the camera now. Again, something people do tend to use pretty regularly. And interestingly enough, even though the display is monochrome and it's working at the GPU level to create that monochrome effect, you can still take color photos. After we give the phones another 15 minutes, so just having the internet browser open, the grayscale one pulls a little bit further ahead. We've now got a 2 percentage point gap between the two phones, which, considering we started off at 15% in this monochrome mode, is quite a large difference. Not too much longer into this internet and video binge session, the colored display OnePlus 5T calls it a day, whilst our Sandstone white phone is still hanging in there with 4%, which on the face of it sounds like a subtle difference down to margin of error, but let's do a little bit of maths here. Assuming both phones hit 15% at exactly the same time, and that the grayscale phone had exactly 4% left when the coloured one had hit 0%, this would mean the monochrome app has actually saved us about 26.7%. When you think about the magnitude of that number, getting an extra 26.7% battery life whilst you're in this phase, that's actually quite significant, and to a certain demographic, definitely justifies the effort of rooting your phone. A couple of things to bear in mind though. This is only going to work on your phone if you've got an AMOLED display. The whole process of rooting your device in order to install monochrome is going to void your warranty, so that's a risk you do have to weigh up with the benefit. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and you found it useful. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button down below if you did. My name is Alan, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.
The way the world works has changed. At Topcoder, we are proud to be paving the way for others joining the work-at-home movement due to necessity. The beauty with being a part of Topcoder is not only because we have gig work opportunities like none other, or challenges to test your skills, or even because there is so much money at stake to earn on a daily basis. The beauty lies within the whole concept of community. Like-minded individuals who help each other are what we are made of. Incredibly talented people who will take the time to show you how to improve your solution. Amazingly creative people who will cheer you on when you win, even if it means they lost.
This video was sponsored by Squarespace. Today we're talking about some really interesting, at the same time very unusual, Android wallpapers. Don't forget to stay till the end because, in my opinion, it gets better and better. Let's get started. The first app is Live Wallpaper Loops, a pretty gigantic selection of these looping clips. Now, these aren't quite photos, but at the same time they're not quite videos either. They're kind of like photos in which part of the image is animated. And this adds a little bit of a pop, a little bit of a subtle nuance that basically makes everyone who looks at it take a second glance. Now, these aren't exactly the highest resolution clips out there, but compared to playing a fully fledged video file, it's going to save a lot more battery. The second app I really wanted to talk about is called Chameleon, and as soon as you open the application, you get two options. You can either pick a wallpaper based off Android Lollipop or one based off Marshmallow, which, granted, is not the latest and greatest, but what it can do still is nonetheless pretty cool. So from the app, you open up your camera, and you can take a photo of anything you want to, and the application transforms that photo into an appropriate wallpaper. It's a pretty cool concept. It is a bit of a shame that you have to open the application, then take a photo every time you want to update it, and it doesn't do it automatically depending on your background, but nonetheless I think it's a really cool idea, and I have found a little bit of use for it. Say for example you're strolling along the streets at night and you catch this incredible looking sunset, you simply take a photo of it and you'll see these beautiful reds and blues of the night sky kind of integrated in your home screen. The next app is called 3D Wallpaper Parallax, and that sounds awfully similar to 3D Parallax Wallpaper that we tested quite a while ago on this channel. Essentially there are a lot of apps that do this, but this is by far the most extensive one I've seen. It has a vast selection of wallpapers, and each of these wallpapers has up to 5 different layers. When you download and install the wallpapers and you move your phone around, these layers move at slightly different speeds, which gives the illusion of depth. And to be honest, in terms of the reaction you get when you let someone try this, this one probably has the best response. The app has just about every single type of wallpaper. It's got nature, it's got abstract, it's even got ones inspired by OnePlus. And whilst they're not all full HD resolution, the ones that are do look really good in motion. Now the fourth one is a really curious one. It's called Transparent Screen. And there are a lot of applications that sort of attempt to do what this one is doing, but this is the best one I've found that works at the highest resolution and without too many ads. What it does is use the phone's rear camera to simulate a phone that is completely transparent. And to be honest, again, like with the first application we showed, every time someone sees this, they pretty much have to double take. It is a really impressive feature, and it works just as advertised. Clearly, because it's always keeping the camera open in the background, this thing is fairly intensive on your battery, but if you have a phone which has got loads to spare, or you always carry around a power brick, then it's a bit less of a problem. Now, the next one is pretty much a polar opposite of that. This is Loopwall, and it relies on GIFs, or GIFs, or whatever you want to call them. The reason for that is because it's very battery saving. GIFs or GIFs are nothing more than moving images, and therefore, whilst they don't have the highest resolution, and they're not quite as fluid as videos, these add a pretty unique, rustic look of their own. The next one is probably the most intelligent one on the list. It's called Smart Wallpaper, and whilst to the untrained eye it looks like a standard static wallpaper, it changes according to your conditions. So this could be your weather conditions, this could be the time of day, the week, the month, or it could even be which Wi-Fi network you're connected to. And this live wallpaper is a little bit less about being dynamic and more about just keeping your phone interesting. Could you imagine every time you unlock your screen, you've got a different wallpaper on there? It manages to do this without any noticeable battery drain at all compared to a standard stock wallpaper. For those of you who liked the idea of these parallax wallpapers, but who didn't like the fact that they were quite limited in terms of resolution, there is Zero. Now Zero is an early access application, so it's not quite finished yet, and it's also a little bit on the premium side. So if you really want to get the full feature set, you kind of have to invest a bit in it. But in terms of the end quality of the wallpapers you get, it's pretty much unrivaled. They are super sharp, the motion is super well tracked, and the depth effect they create is very realistic. As I said earlier, this video was sponsored by Squarespace, a site that is packed to the brim with award-winning templates that are going to help you build your own website. And these things kind of take the faff out of the whole experience. They make it very easy to make something that's going to look very professional. So if you ever did want to build an online store, or use a website as a portfolio to show employers what skills you have, now is as good a time as any. So if you are interested, do hit the link in the description, or type in squarespace.com/boss, and you can get yourself a free trial and 10% off. So guys, there we have it. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Чё? Наоборот.
Дома, в дороге,
Как о чем ты говорил?
на даче или даже на пляже. С Новокит ваш ребенок сможет обучаться английскому языку в любом месте и в любое время. Ведь все, что нужно для занятия, это гаджет и доступ в интернет. Новокит. Fun for kids, results for parents.
Да наоборот, я вам тебе про себя говорил, да наоборот, да. Типа этого ты имеешь в виду.
Привет, меня зовут Оля, я из команды Яндекс, блог-платформы, которая платит блогерам за контент. Мы создали первый официальный курс для блогеров. В нем в формате коротких видеоуроков делимся инсайтами, информацией о том, как набрать аудиторию и начать зарабатывать
вот это что, опять что ли, это все?
Выпускники курса получают доступ к закрытым учебным магазинам и рекомендации в программу поддержки блогеров. Ну еще, конечно, классный мерч. Регистрируйтесь по ссылке.
Так наоборот ли?
Четвертая серия прохождения модификации «Змеелов». Коварный разработчик уже порядком поистребал мою нервную систему. Однако это еще не все, на что он способен. Сегодня я попадусь в ловушку разработчика, из которой невозможно выбраться. Но если возможно, то я просто не додумался как. Можете подсказывать в комментарии, и я попробую в следующей серии. Заваривайте себе бублики, берите чай и приятного просмотра. 94 ЖК нам мне по-любому должно хватить, чтобы зачистить всю базу. Чейзер у меня не прокачанный. Ну, кстати, раз тут такой мощный ЖК, то можно, в принципе, не качать, что это, Тузла, не лютинг, hello. Видишь, ошибки на ошибки, что-то постоянно не хватает. Missing, ок, comment. Короче, звуков каких-то нет. Так вот, можно вкачать точность дробовику нереальную. Он не будет стрелять дробью, но зачем дробь, если ЖК так хорошо стреляет? Это раз. Во-вторых, сегодня будет серия без бомбежек. Потому что сильно слишком я бомбился. В прошлой серии кучу я повырезал в этой самой бомбежке, потому что было прям жесть. Все, давайте попробуем нормально постримить, без всяких приколов. Ну что, господа военные, у вас есть артефакты? Короче, кто-то мне написал, что надо выходить с пассажирского сиденья, и тогда не будет себе все в инвентарь перемещаться. Кто-то написал, что это из-за того, что в руках детектор. По поводу пассажирского, я, по-моему, там раз через раз срабатывает. По поводу детектора, ну, может быть, кстати, может быть. Я, конечно, не помню, выходил ли я без него. Все, процесс пошел. Блин, дробовик балдеж. Это ведь еще не самый лучший. Я ведь знаете, что захотел поиграть? В войну группировок. Помните, мы играли в New Vision of War? Года 2 уже, наверное. Последняя серия назад вышла. Это мой один из любимых модов, по крайней мере, когда-то был. Потому что я постоянно играл в войну группировок. И тогда еще у меня ни канала, ничего не было. Я так чисто для себя играл. И вот я думаю, может попробуем? Бау. Ну как-то. В аномалии погиб сталкер Синецкий. Еще и снорки какие-то. Также вас ждет сюрприз этой серии кое-какой. Чуть подальше я вам скажу. Я Пабло. Пабло, ты же обезьяна такая. Почему тебя странно идет? Видели, загрелся, потом отвернулся и разогрелся уже. Так, ну что, наверху Вова Виз сидит? Или кто-то другой?